Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Old World Adventures.
Yeah. Old World reactions. I can't believe we're still talking about this.
People want to hear about it. You got to give the people what they want.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's still relevant. It's important, I guess.
We got some new reveals over the last week.
Yeah.
Specifically on Christmas, I think there was some, or was it Boxing Day? They showed them. Yeah. I think it was Boxing Day.
Whatever. Yeah, because I think Christmas Day was Dark Angels, which is wow.
Yeah.
Whoosh. That's another video, but and then we got I guess another reconfirmation of our confirmation or whatever. So I guess a couple weeks ago, there's someone leaked like the box art, I guess, of the Tomb King box.
Yeah, I always wonder with these like leaks. It's like it's like almost like it's staged or
yeah.
Like, let's put this out there a couple weeks early.
Yeah, my favorite was when there would be a leak with a fuzzy image, and I'd be like in the last 5 years, and I'm like, there's no way someone has a camera that bad.
Whose camera is just like going immediately out of focus? Okay, take that picture.
Yeah. And, like they make it sound like they're like a spy breaking into a facility, and they got to take this photo really quick and get out. And I was like, this would be like 2019 or 2020.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So we got the kind of the launch boxes, I guess, that we've been talking about, or like knowing that something would come. I guess we've known for a while that there wouldn't be likely like an all-in-one box, but it looks like they did two army boxes.
They kind of didn't like ever really say for sure there was going to be a starter set, and then so this kind of confirmed that there isn't really.
There's not, but it's. So going with the theme of all of the old world content has been centered around Tomb Kings and Bretonnians. So here is two army boxes for those, and then they also kind of talked about, I guess, kind of their little like launch weekend roadmap, which involves all the other books. So that's some pretty cool stuff. I think the way I don't mind how they're doing that.
I mean, you could kind of, I guess you could always nitpick, like certainly like. I think obviously having it's very sort of like reminiscent of like a Warhammer rule set where you're kind of looking for that weighty tome, thick rule book. It's kind of like always been a traditional kind of Warhammer-esque thing. So we're getting that. I think aesthetically, I have to say, I like the blue. I really like the blue. It looks pretty sharp. It always used to be kind of red tones and stuff like that, and now I think it kind of, the shift at least goes as like this is something like a new era almost. I think it's kind of smart. And so you've got your core rules, which basically will have like how to play the game, scenarios. I don't remember is the magic in there, or it's put in the Ravening Horde stuff. I think the generic ones are in there.
I think there's generic lores.
Yeah, like the generic lores and the generic
items. I'm pretty sure there is.
That will be in the rule book.
I'm pretty sure there are, yeah. Because the magic is a bit like, it's like that 7th ed and even like, was it 6th and 7th 40k? The magic actually reminds me a lot about that era of, because I think 40k was the first one that did these like psychic powers with really like specific types, like hexes and whatever they're called, convergence.
Yeah, for sure.
They borrowed from there anyway, but I believe it's in the rule book. Like they're gonna have like.
Was Age of Sigmar the first to do the 2d6 roll? Was that before in AOS?
No, because 40k has been doing.
They've been doing it for that long.
They've been doing
since like what 6th or 7th.
Just like you get the 2 dice.
The characteristic test. Yeah, that's since the dawn of time. That's been the case.
But I think what was the thing in 40k? What did the warp charges do? They gave you like pluses to your rolls or something. Anyway, they've been simplifying magic for several editions of 40k and AOS now. So and like this is a hybrid of all that because they revealed in the rules that like they didn't want people to do so many dice pools. They just wanted you to like roll and add your level and move on with your life.
Simple,
which is cool.
So you've got a really nice packaged kind of rule book, which is going to be something everyone's going to want to get, and it was a nice surprise to see that that's included in the starter box. So like if you buy
whichever
a Tomb King Army deal, you get that book. If you get the Bretonnian one, you get that book. And it sounds like they've kind of confirmed that like all of those like official factions, we'll call them, which are on the main list. Not the FAQ armies, but the ones that are in the storyline will all probably be getting sort of like this kind of treatment.
Yeah. So they did reveal that there's so the next two books. So this is a bit like Horus Heresy from last year. So you have your big rule book, and then you have a good guy and bad guy. You basically have your loyalist and heretic.
I'm not sure how I feel about
Books.
Tomb Kings being lumped in with the bad guys.
How
dare you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fine too,
Yeah.
because I mean, it's one of those funny things that like a guy like me would probably end up with both, because like I have good guy armies and bad guy armies.
Sure,
But if
sure.
you were like only played, if you're like I only play good guys, then you buy one book and it's kind of nice or whatever. And it means that like they can make like a nice, relatively thick book that's enjoyable to read and has a lot of like stuff in it. I guess I don't mind that. I don't mind the like all-in-one codex or whatever you call it, like for each half.
Here's where I think the only part of the thing that made me scratch my head is there's actually another book.
There is a third set of books. It's not just a book. I think it's
usually the reason to do the sort of like collective army list book, which they did, like you said, in Horus Heresy and Darkness, is to avoid doing like the codexes, like you don't have the individual army books. But it seems like they're doing both. So you actually can like buy almost like your DLC pack for your Tomb Kings on probably day one.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's sort of like where your like special unique characters are going to be in.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's going to be this was never a thing in Warhammer, but this is something you'll remember if you ever played War Machine or Hordes, the theme lists or whatever.
Yes.
Sounds like there's going to be theme lists as well.
Yeah.
In there, so there is a little bit of like an unlockable DLC, and they actually said like additional stories, additional sort of like narrative content.
I think they plan to do that for all of them.
So isn't that
factions.
just hot take? Isn't that just an army book?
It's an army book, but I think they're not ready to give you all the army book. I guess they really want to make sure that you can play right away.
See, I guess
they're doing this weird.
That's a very reasonable take. I think like the idea that this wasn't, they didn't want to necessarily do it this way. Like this is just the way to get people playing faster, right?
Yep.
So this gives them more time to develop the additional books for the other armies and actually spread it, and then give you like a list that you can play with.
Now the other thing it does, we put our business hats on. Yeah,
right over the face.
Right.
Yeah. We need to get some like accessories for these
accessories.
videos.
We do. Because we were always talking about like what the hell we're going to sell, or whatever, and we know this like Tomb King and Bretonnian box, which we'll kind of get into the contents in a second or whatever. And that goes into the category of like, are people going to buy reboxings or different, what would the models look like? But having extra books to sell is kind of a funny, like, here's something that you probably, like, those probably won't be hard to sell, so to speak,
No, you're right.
Anyone will come and just grab because they'll have existing models or whatever. So it's kind of a funny thing to have in the lineup. It's like even they realize that we need like
instead of
generic items.
They know they don't have a lot more kits to sell, so they've gone. It's almost like they've gone deeper on books.
So it's
like you have something to actually sell and give people.
It reminds me of this is something Chris. Again, any of you who like collected Warhammer for like, let's say at least, I don't say at least, but over the past like 10 years or whatever, you will notice there was a change that happened over the years where when a new army book came out, it wasn't just about rolling into your store and picking up your one book or whatever, which often that was the case. Like if New Space Marines came out, you came in and the store, if it was a Games Workshop especially, you might have, especially like the one that Chris worked at especially, like you would have like a massive stack of books and guys would just come in and just grab a book off the top and pay for it and then open it and read it. And so you knew mentally that you were like, oh, it's whatever. I'm probably it's gonna be like $60 or something and I get my new book. And now it's like the day one DLC is not just a book. It's like books, data cards, endless spells, whatever. Sometimes a faction terrain.
They've tried a lot of that
like
stuff.
Where it's actually like again, this was an Age of Sigmar thing.
It's like before you've gotten to buy a single model for your army, it's like
God forbid there was
$100 in.
It was almost $200 just to get your like patch.
It's kind of genius, like but.
And we learned over the years too, because especially the things like the faction terrain or the data cards, like they don't make a lot of them. They make like, because even they're like, we don't want to make this forever. These are niche items. For sure. So you're like, you can't even say like, oh, I'll buy that.
I mean, you could even have dice into there too.
Oh, dice.
If you want to buy the dice.
If they're really, dice, But like the faction terrain is the real meme now, where you're like, you didn't buy the Necro tower thing or whatever the Bostiarch's have.
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah.
the Seraphon pyramid.
Yeah.
You like the benefit that it gives your army is so useful that if you don't have it, it's like you're playing handicapped or whatever.
Yeah,
So
it's free. It's a free advantage.
So if you didn't buy it on day one, just forget it. Yeah. Anyway, that's so they've. I feel like that's kind of what's a bit of the scheme going on here.
There is a track record,
and we don't know yet, but they must have more little knickknacks. Like I'm really surprised we haven't seen a little update, dinky update that talks about the movement trays or something that they can.
Yeah, that is a little surprising. Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know whatever.
Yeah.
So, and if they don't have a 90-degree arc to sell day one, I'm also going to be like really
guys, yeah,
really yeah. That's like $40 for some reason or whatever.
Yeah,
because it's made of Sigmar's
Can you
tears.
imagine?
Or something.
Can you imagine if they released the same movement tray pack or whatever?
I mean.
It's possible.
You know what? It was.
possible.
It's possible. It would work.
It works
because it was 25s on the bottom and 20s on the top or whatever.
But 20s is done now, I think, right?
I mean, if you go by what they want, what they're trying to show, and what they want people to shift towards, yeah, it looks like there's not a lot. Probably goblins or something on 20s or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so we can get into the contents of the box.
You could do that.
So how do you feel about?
So let's just kind of breeze through that.
Tomb King box
so the Tomb King box, your only new miniature is the giant like bone dragon,
Rogue King, whatever he's called.
Yeah, and
which I love actually. I love that
great
model.
miniature. Yeah,
really
it's cool.
Great miniature.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue if it's like aesthetically correct for like my only knock against it from like an old world standpoint is it almost looks like an Age of Sigmar model. Like it's a little big, I guess, like base wise and everything like that. But it's very cool. And then you get, if I remember correctly, there's it's mostly skeleton warriors.
40 skeletons.
Skeleton bowmen.
20. Yeah, I think you get 24 or
Makes
something.
sense. Which I think would have been a box back in the day. Or close to it.
Well, it's
16 or
they're like
24.
sprues of 4 or whatever.
Yeah, so they can kind of go up and down that way, right?
Yeah.
And you got 6th edition to thank for that, I think. There's ranks of 4, wherever they make everything in 6th edition.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
And then it's horsemen. I think you get horsemen and chariots, so like 1 unit of each.
So it was, I think, 8 horsemen.
Yeah, which is what used to be 1 box. Of each of those.
Yeah.
And that's it. So no Tomb Guard.
Right.
Which are no Necrosphinx.
Yeah.
None of the kits that were released like 15, 14, 13 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
The last wave or whatever.
Early 2000s or whatever, yeah.
So they're saving all those. So the original day one buy-in is all sort of like 6th edition minis.
This is all circa 2002, 2003 or whatever.
So I mean, like, it's kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So I'm not like surprised.
Yeah.
Does it kill my excitement a little bit? Yeah, probably. I think in my mind, like if I was gonna do Tomb Kings, I already was like thinking conversions anyways, right off the bat.
Yeah,
so, like in my own.
I guess it's a little curious that they didn't like. Yeah, like you said, like I think it would have been better to have one or to have like a box that's maybe a little bit more expensive. Let's say just like closer to maybe it's $280 or something. Like the battalions, the Christmas battalions.
Yeah, we don't even know what the price is going to be on.
And if they did like kind of like 20s, maybe they could still do the core troops. Like, as you could do like a chariot box. I guess the problem is you need more than 16 archers or something to be effective.
Yeah.
You probably need like at least 20.
That's the thing, right?
Maybe 20 skeletons. So you could do the contents of that box plus some, I don't know, Necropolis knights or. But like, you know the way it is, 1,250 points is kind of exactly like they want you to just like 2 weeks after or whatever the made to order. It's probably made to order or something.
Yeah.
Or some online thing on their website. They want you to go to their website and buy the Tomb Guard and the Necrosphinxes, etc. So I guess the verdict on that is a little boring, basically.
It's a little boring. Yeah.
But the box itself looks cool, I guess. And then on the Bretonnian side, not much different. It's
kind of the same. So you get your men at arms, you get your archers, you get some knights.
You get some knights and the Duke,
and you get the nice new Duke miniature.
And that was like another one where I was like, oh, they didn't put the foot knights in there that they showed off. So that was another like, oh, I see. So
so they're going to sell those separately.
So that. Long story short, I guess they would have probably argued that, well, this is old world and old models and everything is old and the way it was.
Yep.
And that's what people want,
Yep.
apparently. So so here you go.
So here you go.
I guess it's no different than Nintendo or something being like, here, you can play Mario 1 on your Switch or something.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Like we're not changing anything. It's just the old game, whatever. It's kind of like a remaster.
It's a remaster. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, and I mean, you could argue like a lot of those remasters, it's a little bit more difficult in the miniature world because you really have to resculpt every model. But like,
that's right.
Video games have the benefit of being able to do like a minor graphic update.
You can touch things up.
Touch things up a little bit, right?
Without augmenting the gameplay too much or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, usually when they remaster a classic game, they don't really, they want to, keep the original thing as close to possible. Sometimes they just do small things to make it, maybe work better on a modern TV or something, like these small things. But so I guess really, so the next, as usual, it's like what else is coming. I think in their blurb they were going on like it's coming like really soon, so probably January, I guess. Like,
so my big question now is like, so just from a logistics standpoint is obviously there's going to be people that are excited to buy Tomb Kings and Bretonnians and that sort of thing.
Yep.
But for other people that want to play some of the other factions, what's going to be available day one? How are they going to buy it? Like, are they going to be able to walk into a store and buy it? I think the reality is going to be probably not. Just being real, like it's probably going to be direct, so it's going to be web store only for a lot of the range. So just get ready for that. You're going to see a lot of the stuff.
Now we can still get those items.
So you can still go to your local hobby store and place your orders there, which I highly recommend you do.
Yeah.
To support your local business.
Yeah.
But I think when stuff tends to go through the direct channels like that, the reason is, generally speaking, is because they don't make as many.
Yeah.
So get ready for things to sell out quickly and then take a while to restock. That's the pattern. Usually that
so
stuff
what'll
follows.
happen is, which is interesting, like blurb into the like logistics of how this works, because people forget, like when they think of Games Workshop, they just like assume wherever, either it all comes from the UK or whatever. But literally what happens is like, so if you're in North America or Northern or Europe or whatever, you're like basically not in the UK itself. Like Games Workshop North America literally goes to the UK and says, I would like to this many or whatever. It's like doing a purchase order. They basically they have their own budgets and whatever, and they're like, we want to bring in this much, and then they take that and divvy it, and then they need to offer that to all their accounts.
Yeah, they have, and exactly, yeah.
So kind of what happens, and this is difficult, like is one of those like no-win scenarios for a shop like ours or whatever, is they might bring in 5,000 copies, and then they might have like 3,000 accounts, so it's like, or let's say 2,500 of them or whatever, so they can only offer 2 to each of us, and then and whatever's left goes on the web store and all this stuff, so it's very clunky. Yeah, so like always, if you're super mega excited, please tell us.
Yeah, let people know as soon as possible.
Just so that way you're not disappointed. Unfortunately, we're still in this era where you really can't sleep on it at all. Like as soon as I tell these again over and over again. Like that Dark Angel box reveal the other day. Like if you want that, tell us like today or whatever. Like because the sooner you get on the list, the better chance you have of getting it. Because they might day one they might be like, you can have 2 or something. And
there's always that possibility.
And you're like, okay,
yeah.
So
there's always that possibility.
And that's it. You just take what you can get. So we kind of and then like you get like what you get with Imperialis. I'm sure will happen where there's like it sells out quickly, and then maybe some more sprinkles onto the web store a little bit later, and then you're waiting some months for it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, that's how I think Chris and I are on the same page that we think that the numbers will probably be kind of conservative because everything about this release is like safe.
It does feel that way.
The word "safe" is just imprinted all over it. Yeah.
And I don't know that this is in any official capacity it's been compared to Lord of the Rings. But it everything about it, the way they handle it, feels like how they handle Lord of the Rings.
The recent
Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah.
Which is sell a couple of core products through your trade and your retail sales channels. So like your brick and mortar stores have like very limited products they can put on their shelf.
Yeah.
That's probably good for the old world. Like let's be real, that's probably going to be the army boxes. It's going to be the new kit.
Yep.
And then it's going to be the rulebooks.
And don't forget a lot of the web sales are going to be the resin models. That's where they're looking to make more margin and just So all those like the all those beautiful damsels and Foot Squire and all that. That's all I can see. That's probably I forgot about what.
Yeah, that's
all
their
gonna be
that's their
day
new
one,
release stuff.
New
Yeah.
release
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which will be web only and and limited quantities or whatever. So. Well, you know what? We'll see. I think what'll be really interesting is when we make videos about this in like the springtime and like what the landscape looks like. So, there's kind of like different scenarios. The good scenario would be like the launch goes pretty well. People are like actually kind of like by that time maybe playing it and like you're gonna see it a little bit more and more and maybe GW will continue their like Monday posts about it and yeah, it could be like a new interesting era or it could be kind of like,
More like a blip.
like a blip.
Yeah.
It could be a blip.
Could be a blip.
Yeah.
It could be. There's a third option, I think, potentially there that it's this really slow, quiet burn.
Yep.
Where you see because I mean, realistically, to even to assemble and get ready to start playing games of Warhammer, like old world style game, it's quite an investment, right?
Actually,
so you might see a really slow start to like where you actually see like people
That's
starting
fine.
to buy a nibble on it. And maybe it starts to build some momentum, and maybe it'll take a year, 18 months.
It could
to actually start seeing some
they
people
could
play
have
games. Right?
they could slot in another feasibly like let's say August or something. They have another kind of biggish old world like here's the next big
Well, they do two
wave.
more. They do two more boxes.
Maybe they do two more army boxes or some more stuff.
Yeah.
And then that'll be like the thing that really like it really starts getting the momentum going.
And that seems to be their theme is like they'll do that, and maybe there's an expansion book or something that comes out with scenarios in it or narrative play.
That would be good.
That would be cool. They should do
Yeah.
that. They do that for their other games, and it works well, I think. So,
Yeah.
well, what do you think? What do you think the release is going to be like? What do you think what are your expectations? And
Are you still excited?
Are you still excited? I think that's the big thing. Is like, are you becoming more excited as we get closer to the release, or less excited? That's kind of the question.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like and subscribe. That helps us out a lot. If you've watched this long in the video, which you probably haven't. And we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Take care.
Bye.